Hey everyone, this is my page, Blue Collar Jesus Talk. Today I'm going to be sharing my testimony. It's a pretty crazy one, so definitely stay tuned and watch the whole video because it's pretty wild. Basically, kind of starts out years ago when I was younger. My wife and I, she was pregnant, and 32 weeks along we lost our son Jax, and that kind of put us both on different paths. The way I dealt with it was drinking alcohol, and that's where it started, drinking alcohol with friends and stuff and kind of trying to numb the pain. So I definitely had a problem with alcohol for a couple years at least, and dabbled in hard drugs here and there. And like I say, this is going to be a pretty raw testimony. A lot of people might judge it or whatever, which is fine. I'm doing it for the purpose of reaching people who need it, and God's put it on my heart to post this, so I'm gonna do it. It's basically, it's gonna be a pretty raw testimony, and it's been tough for me to be at this point here where I'm sitting down doing it. I've been really spiritually fought on actually posting a video or going through with the process of filming it. So this isn't easy to do because it was definitely a very traumatic testimony, I guess. So anyhow, so it started out with alcohol, and I dabbled in drugs. I did a lot of marijuana, that kind of stuff. But the hard drugs was only a handful of times. Quite a few years ago, I took Molly a couple different times, and so I had experienced that, and it's kind of like ecstasy, so it's a tingly feeling and you're happy and all this kind of stuff. As time went on, I did it a couple times or whatever, and then I hadn't in quite a while. And so basically I was down in a different city working, and my wife and daughter were in a different city, obviously, where we lived. And so I was down there, I was working, I was sleeping in my truck at the time, and sorry, this is really getting fought on this. Like, there's definitely a spiritual attack, so bear with me on this, because it's tough. So I was working in a different city from where my family was, and I was sleeping in my truck. Well, I ended up getting in touch somehow, ran into an old friend I went to high school with. And I ended up hanging out with him one night. Well, turns out he's actually a big drug dealer at this point. And he put what was so-called Molly on my lap. And I said, no man, I don't do that stuff anymore, because I was really trying to be on the straight and narrow. And he's like, no, just take it. Kind of peer pressuring me. So I just took it anyways and put it in the cup holder of my truck, and I wasn't gonna touch it. And then I was sitting there, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just do a little bit and listen to some music. So like, I'm in my blankets and everything like that, like getting ready to go to sleep for the night. So I take a little bit of it, and I remember about a minute or two after taking it, and I didn't take any more than I ever had in the past. And anyways, I blacked out. I guess I was driving my truck all night. Thank God nobody got hurt. I didn't kill anybody on the road, which is just horrific to look back and think, and where I'm at now, how I could even, be in a position like that in the past. So anyways, I drove around basically all night, burnt a bunch of fuel, and I was in and out of consciousness because I think I was on the verge of probably overdosing. And when I actually came to, I was going into the ditch just before when a school was getting into session. So thank God that I did go into the ditch then, and nobody got hurt. I thank God for that all the time, and it's something that I've had a lot of guilt with and had to forgive myself over. But anyway, I went into the ditch, I crashed my truck, which this was a truck that, I absolutely loved. It was my favorite truck I ever had. Anyways, I completely wrote it off. So anyways, the police and the ambulance showed up and everything, and they checked me out, ended up letting me go. I got an infraction on my license and stuff, and I wasn't allowed to drive for 24 hours. And so anyways, that's where it kind of started. And then I lost my job, so I went back to the city that my family was at, and we ended up living in our trailer. So now we're in our trailer. I got no job. I'm selling parts off of my truck because I had a bunch of performance parts and stuff. I'm selling parts off of my truck to make money. And keep in mind, Jesus was not in my life at all at this point. Like, obviously he was there, and I feel like he's the one that saved me from getting severely injured in that accident, because I didn't have any injuries from it or anything. So now at this point we're living in the trailer, and I'm not doing hard drugs anymore because that really set me straight, but I'm smoking a ton of marijuana. And I remember the one night I'm smoking a bunch of the marijuana, and all of a sudden I just start feeling euphoric, and I'm feeling good and this and that, and my wife and I are we're talking about things, and we had all these plans that we were going to do to get out of the situation we were in. And anyways, it started to lead into some kind of spiritual things. And my wife, in the past, when she was younger and stuff, played with Ouija boards and tarot cards and all that kind of stuff. So she had a background in that. And I was saying all of these kind of spiritual things, and she just kind of sat up and was like, oh my goodness, like, couple days ago, I guess it's auto writing or something like that. Maybe it's not the right term, but it's basically you let a spirit come through you to write a message or whatever. So this message was written, and so the message was written down, and I couldn't read it, but for some reason she could. I don't know if it was the type of handwriting or whatever. And basically it was saying something to the fact of, like, we are a higher power and this and that, like some definitely demonic stuff, because the devil likes to think that he has a lot of power and this and that, and likes to make people think that they are powerful within themselves and all this kind of stuff, and that the power comes within you, and it's completely wrong. But anyhow, so this happens. Well, I start to get freaked out. So we grabbed the paper. Here's another thing. This is another thing I just remembered. So I was writing down whatever the message had said on the piece of paper. It wanted me to trust the message. So I was trying to write down trust on a piece of paper, and I was writing down trust and circling it and underlining it. And all of a sudden the pen blew apart, flew across the room. So this really freaked me out. So I said, no, this is it. We're burning this paper. So we took it outside, went out front of the trailer. I'm terrified at this point. We went out front of the trailer, and I dumped like 20 liters of gas, I lit it on fire and just kept dumping a little bit more and more gas on this, and it just would not burn. The paper would not burn. It never did burn. So that was pretty freaky. Anyways, a couple days went on. I wasn't sleeping at all at this point. And, I started to get pretty sick, and sick mentally. And so it ended up getting to the point where my wife had to get a mental health check on me. So this is where the story starts to get really crazy. So anyways, the police show up, and they take me away. Oh, and also, it's all kind of jumbled a bit, because this was quite a while ago too, but it's all coming back to me. So before I ended up getting the mental health check done on me, I was going into town and stuff, and every store I would go to, when I'd buy an item, the total would come up to $6.66, or when I went to the grocery store and bought groceries, it was $66.66. So this was really, I was being really tormented with this. And so that all was going on, and then I ended up getting the mental health check on me. So they brought me to the hospital, and the psychiatrist checked me out. there's just water draining out of the boat for some reason, which is really odd because it's been sitting there for weeks. So the psychiatrist did the mental health check on me. He deemed that I was, not doing too well mentally, so I had to have a stay in the hospital. And from when I did not want the medical system or anything like that to have anything to do with me at this time. I was really freaked out, paranoid, being demonically attacked for sure. And so he told me that I had to stay there. The police grabbed me, and from that point on, I blacked out. Well, after that, I woke up in not a padded room, but basically you get the idea, a room where you're locked in seclusion all by yourself. And I was in there for 5 days, I think. And the experience in there was, there's not even a word to explain the torment and the feeling that I had. I honestly felt like the devil was pulling my soul through the floor, and I was counting down the seconds and minutes until I was going to lose my soul, and that was it. Like, that's what this felt like. And so I was in there for 5 days, and every time the doctors would come in to check on me, they would bring a bunch of police officers, probably 8 or 9 of them, because I'm a bigger guy. And every time they came in, I tried breaking out to get out of there because I was so terrified. I just wanted to run away from the situation. And they would come in every time. Well, I was like on the 5th night, a lady comes up to the door. There's a little window on the door, and she comes up to it and she goes, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I said, "Good." She said, "Can I come in there?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And she didn't seem too worried about me attacking her or anything, which is crazy because every time they had security and police officers there. So this is the first thing that's crazy, right? Like, so she comes up, she's just gonna come in there all by herself, this little lady, super sweet, super like good energy about her and stuff. And she's coming in there without police officers. So this is where I 110% believe I had an angel encounter. She came in, she knelt down right in front of me, and she asked how I was doing, this and that. I said, I'm good. And she said, "Are you feeling better?" I said, "Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better." And she said, "Okay, well, my name is Faith, and I just want to let you know that everything's going to be okay from here on out." And she walked out of the room, down the hallway, and I black out again, and now I'm in a different hospital. Now that I'm in the different hospital, like a lot of stuff was blank to me in the first hospital. Like, I remember being in seclusion and going through all that. And then there was some blacking out and all these types of things. And then when I went to the second hospital, I remember pretty much every moment from there on out. So I was in this hospital, the second one, and there's some crazy stuff that happened in there. So I had the angel encounter, which you could argue it. You could argue that I was just in a bad mental state or whatever, but I 100% believe that was an angel, and that was the first step at God being there for me. So that's pretty emotional, actually. God's just been so faithful to me from before I even realized that I needed to call out to him. So I'm in this second hospital, and it's a tough scenario. This is like an intensive care unit, so there's some people there that have really lost it. And anyways, there was this guy that kept coming around me, and his name was Clayton, and he kept coming around me trying to talk to me and this and that, and this is pretty bizarre to me, and it's really wild. And I got a Bible verse to talk about with this, actually. So he kept coming around to me, and he's like, "Hey man, like what's your goal in life? Like, do you want to be rich and this and that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be nice. Like, that would be awesome to be rich." And he's like, well, when we get out of here, I'm getting goosebumps even talking about this. This is just wild. He said, when we get out of here, you should come over to my place and I can get you to do some work around the property and stuff, and we can write up some kind of contract agreement and I can help you become a millionaire. And I just, when this happened, chills went up my spine and I was like, no, I don't want any part of it. And this scared me, right? Like, I was like, this is demonic, this guy's a demon. And I went up to the nursing station and I told them about it, and I said, this guy's freaking me out, I don't want him near me anymore. And then he walked past me in the hallway and just death glared me, and I was terrified of him. So I told them again. Well, I find out later my parents were pretty involved in this and being there for me, and well, they weren't pretty involved, they were majorly involved. And the nurses, after the fact, I found this out later after I was out of the hospital, the nurses told my parents that when I came and told them that this guy was bugging me, that there was no guy. I was just standing there talking to nobody. So that's crazy to me. And you know, I really feel like the devil can get you to sell your soul to him. I'm not saying your soul is permanently given to the devil, like that you can't come to Jesus, but I do believe he makes deals with people for their soul so that they can make lots of money and he can have your soul, so you don't go to heaven or follow Jesus. And I was reading just before doing this, I was trying to get the courage to do this video, and I'm like, well, I better read my wife actually said I should read the Bible for a bit. And this says, for what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? So that just that's in Matthew 16, 26 to 27. So the next part is, or what shall a man give to return for his soul, or in return for his soul? So anyways, that was, you know, that's pretty crazy to me, because I really feel like that was the devil trying to get me to make a deal with him to, like, I feel like he was really out for my soul and my well-being and wanted me to be on his team. And also, like, when I was younger, you know, I grew up in a neighborhood, there was biker gangs and this and that, like, you know, not good gangs. And they were really, you know, coming around my place lots, trying to see me lots and stuff, and trying to get me to work for them and this and that. So there's kind of always been a pull to that side with me, with the life I was living. So that's just crazy to me that happened. Not only did I have an angel encounter experience, that basically the devil was trying to get me to sign a deal with him. And I know you people that are Christian, or, you know, if you're not Christian and you're researching things and you're watching a video like this because you're interested, I'm sure you've heard lots of sayings or whatever about selling your soul to the devil for money type things. So I really do believe that's a real thing. Now, there's nothing Jesus can't overcome. And, you know, he died on the cross for our sins, and there's nothing that he can't overcome, and you're never too far gone. So anyways, that all happened. And then, you know, I was in that unit for a little while, and then I got transferred back to the first hospital, and I met some people there. There was an older guy in there who was super helpful. This is where it kind of all started. He, you know, he was praying for me, like I was just, my spirit was just being tormented. Like, this was just horrifically difficult when I was in there. So this old guy, he was praying for me. Like, he'd put his arm around my shoulder and pray for me, and I'd just immediately feel this calm come over me when he was praying for me. And you know, so he was doing that. He was reading Bible verses to me. Like, it was just so amazing with what he was doing there. So anyhow, I started to get way better, started to get back to myself. So the doctors eventually decided that I could leave. And, you know, it was a journey to get back to normal for sure. It took me quite a long time, but like, and I'm not just meaning like my mental state, I'm talking like anxiety, all this kind of stuff. Now at this point, when I got taken away and like if we go back to the part where I got the mental health check, you know, there was obviously a demonic attack and some severe mental stuff going on, and stuff had happened. I said things that I didn't realize, and there was basically a protection order type thing from where I wasn't allowed to be around my family, which is just horrible. So we went through that. So basically I got out of the hospital, I got crippling anxiety, I got nothing to my name. You know, I had the clothes that I walked into the hospital with, and I got nothing to my name, you know, so I'm going on some employment insurance and just trying to get back on my feet. So I'm not allowed to see my daughter and everything, and obviously my wife and I are not together at this point. We're not talking. There's a protection order type thing on, so that went on for 3 years. There was court going back and forth and this and that, and it was a long, drawn out thing. So I had a lot of time to heal myself being away from my family, which was one of the hardest times. But anyway, so I'm kind of jumping all over the place here. I'm trying not to, but so when I was out of the hospital, so now I'm staying with my uncle, and I'm sleeping on his couch, and I'm waking up at 3 in the morning on the dot every night feeling like something's standing over me. This was night and night, like it just kept going and going. So then, you know, my dad went and actually got me a Bible. I asked him to get me a Bible, so I was sleeping with this Bible and I was holding it. Well, immediately when I was holding the Bible, now this wasn't happening anymore. I was sleeping through the night. So anyways, we end up getting a place, renting a place together, my parents and I. They're really being there for me, really supportive. So now I'm not waking up at 3 in the morning anymore. I'm sleeping through the night and all this kind of stuff. So I'm still at my uncle's place at this point. So I applied for a job because I was a truck driver, and I went and drove truck for them for one night. I had crippling anxiety so bad I didn't think I was ever going to be able to drive a truck again. So I quit the job that night, and so that was really crushing to me, because I loved being a truck driver, and I was so crushed and had so much anxiety. I didn't think I was ever going to get through any of this kind of stuff. So at this point, I still don't really have Jesus in my heart at all. You know, I know he's real and called out to him a couple times, but I'm not following him. He's not in my heart. He's not, you know, I'm just not at that point yet. So now a few weeks later, maybe a month later, I go for another job interview. And keep in mind, at this point, you know, I got a bad driving record for insurance and stuff from my accident with the drugs and all that kind of stuff. Another time in the past, I was at a beach drinking, and I was sitting in my truck. I was gonna drive, and this is horrible that I did these things, but it was gonna happen, and I got busted before I drove, which is a miracle, because I probably would have gotten in an accident. So I got a bad driving record at this point. I go for the job interview, and it's gone. So this is messed up. It's almost midnight. I was in bed. My wife's editing this video for me because I don't know how to edit. Well, at least not the big videos. So a part of the video just got cut out somehow, which makes 0 sense. And also the login for my YouTube account and stuff, they were saying the password's wrong. It was a gong show trying to get that in order. So where it left off was that I got the job interview, and so I go for the job interview and meet the guy. It's an older guy, it's a big company and stuff, and I got a bad driving record at this point. And he doesn't even look at my driving record or anything like that, gives me the job. Turns out that he's a Christian guy, and you know, he was really there for me, helped me along the way with my growth in life and turning into who I needed to be. He was just just a good supportive boss. And you know, I had great friends there by my side, supporting me, trying to get me to get into God's word and all this kind of stuff. So the next clip is just how my friends were praying for me and trying to get me to go to church and all that. So I know it's kind of mixed up here and there's a little bit missing, so hopefully it patches together fine. So they're praying for me, they want me to come to church, this and that. And I'm basically, you know, doing good in life, so I didn't see any need for it or anything like that. But God's working in the background big time. And, you know, so I'm working lots, doing well. Well, I started to see psychics, and that was not a good decision. So I started to see different psychics. I was seeing them all the time, different ones, and I was kind of like almost getting a high from it. You know, like wanting to know my future and what's going to happen with my wife and I, and when am I going to see my kid again. And I'm kind of obsessing over this. Well, anyways, we, when my parents and I got this place that we're renting, we move in, and across the street, there's a sign that says psychic readings. There's a psychic across the street. So I start to go see her, and she, you know, comes off so sweet, this and that. I'm gonna help you do this and everything, and she's taking a bit of money from me, and then all of a sudden she's taking more money, and she needs more money for this, and oh my, you got something inside you that's a curse and this and that, and if we don't deal with it, you're gonna die. So I end up paying her whatever it was, $1,400 or something like that to deal with this, and it kind of just kept going on and on and on, and she was, you know, wanting me to do all these spiritual things like past life regression and all this kind of weird stuff. And you know, my parents were kind of pretty optimistic, but they stayed pretty quiet. Well, I guess they found some things out, but it's funny because I was laying in bed, and I just had this feeling to start look at a picture of her. And I clicked on her Facebook, looked at a picture of her, and on her chest there was a tattoo that I had seen many times, but I never really clued into what it was somehow. It was a picture of the devil on her chest. So I went walking out to the living room, and I came to talk to my parents, and I was like, what the heck, she's got this devil tattoo, she's been scamming me, this and that, because the lady told me she was Christian and all this kind of stuff. Well, you're not Christian if you're doing tarot cards and all this kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't go together. You know, the Bible speaks on this. So, you know, Jesus spoke on doing this, playing with witchcraft and all this kind of stuff. So you can't serve both. But anyways, I come out to the living room, and my parents say, yeah, we actually found out that back in her country, she got arrested for taking over $450,000 from a guy doing this magic and tarot card reading and this and that. She was taking money from the guy all the time. She got 450 grand from him, and she went to jail for it. So this is the lady that's doing this to me. So I went over there, and I got just choked at her and told her, like, I'm done with you, like, you're a scammer and this and that. And so I walked, and she looked at me and she smiled and she said, oh, don't worry, you'll be back. And it sent chills up my spine, but I said, no, I won't. Well, from there, you know, I started to feel, you know, sketched out and really stressed and stuff, and I was working lots of hours, and I ended up having a mental breakdown at work, like a complete mental breakdown. I couldn't breathe. I smoked cigarettes at this time. I was smoking smoke after smoke, and I was so stressed out. So they ended up, my parents ended up picking me up from there, and so they picked me up, and I was like so beyond like scared and stressed out and this and that. And they picked me up, and I ended up calling my friends, and I said, I want to go to church. And they said, oh, like no way. And they obviously knew by how panicked I was on the phone, the state I was in, but they ended up taking me to a church in the city I lived in, and I ended up going there, talking to the pastor, told him my whole story and everything I was playing with, and he told me how to accept Jesus into my heart. So I thought I did at that point, but I didn't really. I just started to go crazy with reading the Bible, and one night my friends had given me a study Bible with a bunch of sticky notes in it, and it had first things to read when you're coming to Christianity and this and that, and it had all these sticky notes on the verses you should read and all that. So I'm just reading through this, flipping through this, and I was even flipping to pages that didn't have sticky notes on them, and I'm flipping around. Every single thing is applying to my exact situation, and I'm sitting there and I know that I haven't fully asked for forgiveness from Jesus yet. So I'm sitting there and I'm struggling with it, and I'm trying to ask for forgiveness, but I just can't get over certain things that I've done. And all of a sudden it was like a script going through my mind, like a picture I could see in my mind of every bad thing I did wrong, and God saying basically, I forgive you. And I'm not kidding, I felt pressure on my bed next to me, and an arm around me, and this tingling feeling from my feet up to my head that was warm, of God just accepting me. That's when I gave my life to Jesus. And from there on out, things got better. My wife and I were still going to court over our daughter, and we ended up talking again. And now at this point, she's seen in the court files, some of them, one of my friends had said that I'm Christian now, and I go to church, and I got a stable job, and this and that, and how well I'm doing. So the first time we talked on the phone, she had asked me, what's Christianity about? What is God all about? She was really intrigued about it. So anyways, we started talking lots, and it just continued on. We talked lots for months, and she ended up starting her own journey with God. And I remember the day that she gave her life to Jesus, and I'm sure she'll do a video on that. But so she ended up giving her life to Jesus and everything. We got back together, and since then we both follow Jesus now. Our life is great. God has blessed us in so many ways. He's been beyond amazing to us. We have another beautiful baby. Life has just been great. I got a good stable job, and I'm gonna start making longer videos on all the things that God's done for me in my life so far. But since the time that I've been following Him, but I tell you, life is 100% better when you have Jesus in it. I was lost, drugs, alcohol, couldn't hold a job. My family was falling apart, all of these things. And Jesus looked at me and said, no, I love you. You're perfect in my eyes. And He was there to help me grow into the person who I am today. And I'm proud of who I am today. So anyways, I know that testimony was kind of all over the place. Hope it's good enough. Hope it touches the people it needs to. And if you're considering accepting Jesus into your heart, I suggest you do it, because you won't regret it. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching my video, and again, like and subscribe and help this reach more people. Cheers.